Good morning, everybody. I know yesterday I said that I was going to be my last video. Actually, I might have one more video to talk about. I could probably fill up a whole hour thinking about things like deceleration of the rotation of our galaxy that may be affecting our solar system, or it may be different and it's our solar system's rate of rotation that's decelerating based on other principles of physical law. So, not that I know what those laws are. So anyway, I'm also going to talk about the dragging the rope perspective of how spiral galaxies operate, and I'm going to reconsider my theories about Jupiter's stripes in how they operate. And I was initially thinking they operated in the exact opposite manner as our the Earth, but as it turns out, I think my phone's doing something funny, but as it apparently turns out, they might actually be quite the same, and I was just looking at it wrong. Hopefully my telephone's not wigging out on me here and I can continue making a video. So I'm going to go ahead and let you watch my elbow and drive to work and talk to you about dragging the rope. But before I talk about dragging the rope, because that one I'll remember, and I tell you all about dragging the rope, I might forget about the other two. Okay, whoops, can't go anywhere yet because my window's not defrosted. Okay, so earlier on I mentioned that gas giants operated in exactly the opposite fashion as terrestrial planets and such, and in that on Earth, the polar vortices, the Arctic and the Antarctic vortices, actually drive the rotation of the equatorial vortices like gears. And then I was explaining that on Jupiter, it is the opposite, where with gas giants, it is the vortical stripes that rotate the primary vortices, like the equatorial vortices. Jupiter, like Earth, has only 4 equatorial vortices that comprise 2 equatorial vertical rods. However, I thought about it this morning and I'm thinking, you know what? I think I'm wrong. I believe that I am correct in terms of the gear-like operation that you see with terrestrial planets, i.e. Earth, because it's like really a planet, but if it's doing it on Earth, you kind of figure it's probably doing it on the other ones. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and start rolling out of my driveway now. So basically, even with Jupiter, you have the influence of the galactic SMGWs, supermassive electromagnetic gravity waves, helping to rotate the planets, in addition to other forces. In this case, Jupiter is being primarily forced into a rotation driven by the sun's solar wind pressure, which pretty much makes Jupiter rotate in the opposite direction as you would expect it coming from an electromagnetic gravity wave emitting from the sun. So that is what makes Jupiter rotate in a prograde direction. And so basically you have let me think about this. The primary rotation of the planet is being driven by the solar wind pressure of the sun, and that's going to be the top dead center equatorial direction of flow of the Jupiter's stripe, equatorial stripe. Sorry to leave you hanging like that. So If that's the case, then that is the primary driving force that leads to the backflow rotational direction of the polar vortex or vortices, or the polar rod, vortical rod, which is always going to go in the opposite direction, at least as far as I can tell right now. And then you have it kind of, so basically it's kind of cycling back around. So then you have the polar vortical rod and its vortices rotating the equatorial primary vortices, and then the equatorial primary vortices feeding back into the continued rotation of the planet's primary rotational vortex, or its external vortex. So it's a circle. It's a well, maybe not a circle, but a cycle. And everyone ends up driving the other one pretty much. And then you have each of the Jupiterian stripes having their counter rotations because of backflow and things of this nature. And it just continues on. And so we'll say that that pretty much is how all of the differential rotating celestial bodies, DRCBs, primarily operate in cycles of flow, each one complementing the other. Okay, then we're going to go on to dragging the rope. So when we look at spiral galaxies, galaxies that aren't in their most full capacity, we see spiral density waves, which are our stellar clutches that are left in the form of like frog egg clutches in a pond, only in the form of a spiral because of the way that the force is driving around. And we can see how that can be compared to a person who's holding, say for instance, a 10-foot rope, and they're spinning around rapidly, you know, in place, and as they spin around, the rope immediately, depending on what direction they're rotating. Let's say, for instance, the person is rotating toward their right, and so that means from an overhead view, they would be rotating in a clockwise manner. And as they rotate in this clockwise manner, the rope immediately drags. It hits that friction hard right as it comes away from the person's right hand. And then it just spirals out, and as the person rotates faster and faster, the rope gains momentum, angular momentum if you want to call it that, and then if the person was able to, say for instance, rotate uber fast, the rope is going to start to levitate, basically. You know, it's going to start getting up, more and more of it's going to go up into the air parallel to the level of the person's hand. So that's kind of how the spiral galaxies work. And actually, I would be willing to go as far as to say all of the galaxies are striving to reach that momentum, and they are also at the same time striving to reach the full capacity of a mature galaxy, whereby the galaxy in itself appears to be almost a solid form of lenticular light. Okay, so our galaxy is still yet very young, which is a good thing, right? But the problem with our galaxy is, fellow with his hazards on, that's interesting. Why are you on the freeway, bud? You just passed the off-ramp. I'm going to go around it. So, Anyway, now I forgot what I was talking about. Okay, so what we've got now is shoot, I was on a roll too. All right, galaxies trying to reach their maximum capacity, meaning the full capacity of what it is they're capable of holding. Kind of like filling the jar. You know, a jar has its maximum capacity, and you want to fill that jar to the top before you put the lid on. So I was talking about how young our galaxy really is, because it's still very spiral in its appearance. Well, or at least we think it is. So now, here's the problem, right? So I was talking about the rate of rotation of our solar system, and referring to that rate of rotation as being the Jupiterian 9-stripe period. And of the Jupiterian stripes that I've mapped, one is theoretical, which led me to develop the impression that we might have been at approximately, say for instance, 14 Jupiterian stripes once long ago. But that's only theoretical, and I really don't have any any evidence on the surface of the Earth other than just estimating the nearest rings that appear to circulate around the original Pangaean North Pole, which would be the northern shore of the Caspian Sea, or, well, you know, near the northern shore. It's not actually the northern shore. I forget the name of that little nub of land coming out of there. But right at the vortex of what would have once been the Arctic vortex of Earth, making Pangaea the continental mass at the north, we have, we have the spiraling form of the Caspian Sea, which at some point reached the Arabian Sea, right? And the Persian Gulf. All of that was all connected once. So basically, that was only theoretical. So I have one other mapping of Jupiterian stripes, which I'm more confident in the scores revealing themselves, and that is in itself at least 11 stripes. So even if 14 stripes is out of the question, there very likely could have been a period of Jupiterian 11 stripes. What does that tell us? It tells us that the Earth's rotation has decelerated at least within the last 4.4 billion years before present. So there are two things that could have affected that deceleration. Either our galaxy, being the rotational driver of our solar system, also decelerated by 2 Jupiterian stripes, or basically one speed. So each time a speed is reduced, you lose 2 stripes. Or each time the speed is increased, not that I would ever expect it to increase, you would gain 2 stripes. So technically you should never lose just one stripe. It doesn't make a lot of sense. Unless an external force's influence on a particular world, such as Jupiter, is greater on one side of Jupiter and less great on the other side, whereby an entire hemisphere, the speed of rotation in an entire hemisphere is reduced, and the other hemisphere is unaffected. Maybe that would be the consideration of a possibility in case Jupiter really did only lose one stripe in 2010. But I'm thinking if the planet in itself, as a planet, as a whole, was reduced in its rotational rate, there would have been two stripes that disappeared. One of the southern stripes and then one of the northern stripes, right? Okay, so that's basically what we're looking at. And the problem with the galaxy decelerating in its rotation is a scary one because that is absolutely a rapid deceleration. If an entire galaxy's rotational rate actually decelerated an entire Jupiterian stripe, or Jupiterian pair of stripes, let's call it that, right? In less than or equal to 4.4 billion years before present, we have a problem. Because this galaxy is never going to see its full capacity. That's what I'm saying right there. Now see, if that's the case, then that could mean that our galaxy is deviating from its flight path along its universal corridor or jet stream, and maybe going toward the outside of the jet stream. But it's difficult to say. If it's going toward the outside of the jet stream, that means it could be getting closer to another jet stream that is flowing in the opposite direction, which could be detrimental to the existence of our galaxy if that's the case. Or because our solar system, in my mind, as I postulate the raw solar system, I like to call our solar system the raw, because if you're flying around the galaxy, like if we ever get to the point where we actually stop fighting each other and start thinking about greater things in existence, and we start doing some intragalactic traveling, we're going to have to be able to tell somebody where the heck we came from, right? So if we don't have, I don't know, I came from the sun, and they're going to look at you like, what? Nobody lives on the sun, dingbat. Or, that's like a little kid. Hi, Johnny. Where are your parents? I don't know. Where do you live? I live in my house. Okay, so we don't want to be like Johnny, right? Going around saying, I live in a house. I live in a solar system. And, like, it's somewhere in this galaxy, but I'm not sure where. I'm going to point in a direction and hope that's the right one. Okay, so let's give our solar system a name, right? We're going to call it the raw solar system. Why? Because I'm getting kind of tired of all these Greek mythological names for everything. It's like, spread the wealth, equal opportunity. Let's put something else out there. Let's call it raw. Besides, it's easier to remember. Now, unlike the RSS acronym that apparently the SDO uses, this RSS is the raw solar system, right? Okay, now that we got that clear. And since we don't really have a name, well, wait, we do have a name for our galaxy. We call it the Mile Galaxy. But let's say, for instance, one day we decide we're going to start traveling from universe to universe. Inter-universal travel, because by that time we really did stop killing each other and we start doing things that are more in tune to the survival of humanity because we realize how delicate we are in this great, massive expanse of devastation that provides life, but only under really unique circumstances, right? So we're a lot more careful about how we go around sniping folks and getting rid of them. We're like, hey, we are not that many in number, and we need to take care of ourselves and try to survive in this great expanse of explosions and all this other wild stuff going on. So we want to give our universe a name. So I'm going to call it the Mega... Wait, wrong one. Omega universe. Why? I chose Omega because our universe is going to have an end. Like anything that we are familiar with that begins, the universe began. We pretty much all can agree that the universe began. It is not the only universe. That's just a very close-minded approach to understanding the reutilization, the natural reutilization and renewable cycle of energy. The cosmos is the perfect example of renewable energy, period. So it's not something that's going to run out anytime soon, folks, okay? It's not like the cosmos came into being and it's going to fizzle out and go poof, poof, as a candle goes out. It's going to be around for a while. So, like a forever while. Something we really can't understand. The omega, the alpha and the omega. Well, it's the continuous cycle of alpha through omega to alpha through omega, on and on and on and so on and so forth. So anyway, we got the names out there, right? But now, the problem is for our solar system. I'm going back to the drag the rope stuff and the decelerating process of rotation. So if our solar system is decelerating and it is not actually our galaxy that's decelerating in its rotation, then that means that our solar system is now deviating from the galaxy to the point or to the extent that the outward forces or the external forces of our galaxy are actually affecting the rotation of our solar system. And because we happen to be closer possibly to the top of our galactic Virga in I think it's the Sagittarius arm. I might be wrong, but suddenly it came back to my mind. I wanted to look it up to make sure I was right, but I think it's the Sagittarius arm, right? That's where we are. So if that's where we are, we're like up there in the galactic Virga, really close to the center of our galaxy, but at the same time, really close to being lost. And if we get lost because we get caught in another jet stream, well, the solar system may stay together or the solar system may come apart. It just depends, because what would tear the solar system apart? Well, look at Jupiter. What happens to a lot of the vortices we see occurring close to the borders of the Jupiterian stripes? As we know, the currents are counter-flowing, and some of them hit those stripes like a motorcycle. You know, a motorcyclist driving down the road, and he hits something that just totally knocks that bicycle, throws him off the bicycle, and next thing you know, he's splattered all over the road. Well, yeah, that's going to be our solar system. If our solar system departs our galaxy and hits a counter rotation, we're going to be screwed. So, yeah, you know what? We might want to start thinking about this kind of stuff, and maybe rather than killing each other, we might want to think of some ways that we could probably, do some Frogger and get the heck off this solar system and go find ourselves a home just maybe a little bit further down, not too close to the galactic plane, but a little bit further down in the Virga, so that we can live at peace, right? There you go. We got to think about things in a bigger picture and stop being so centrally minded. Okay, so, anywho, there it was. All right. Now, here's the other problem, right? Now, if our galaxy is decelerating, and in effect, the galaxy's deceleration is decelerating the rotation of our solar system, then it's the same scenario. If our galaxy is nearing the edge of a jet stream that has the flow of a contrary direction of another jet stream, it could be highly detrimental for our galaxy. But as far as I can tell right now, none of our scientists have witnessed a galaxy just suddenly in the middle of nowhere with no collision with another galaxy or anything of this nature just suddenly get torn apart like we see the vortices get torn apart on Jupiter's surface, right? Or Jupiter's atmosphere. So, you know, there's a good possibility that maybe it'll come close to the edge and correct itself or have some kind of relationship with that external force that kind of becomes more like that Atari game when it first came out, you know, that little tennis ball that goes ding, 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 and we just keep hitting the paddles on each side, ding. So our galaxy's going ding in between all these jet streams, and then in some, you know, some drunk mannerism is flying somewhat down the center of the corridor. But in other words, the pilot flying our galaxy is drunk, right? Because he can't stay in the center of the lane. Who knows? Well, anyway. All right. So now here's the other thing. Our galaxy is a barred spiral galaxy. So I'm pretty sure I already covered that in terms of mentioning that a barred spiral galaxy can only have 3 black holes at its center. And the reason that is because if it has 4 black holes, not going to work. Okay? Something just doesn't pan out for 4 black holes. It's going to either be 3, it's going to be 1, it could be 2, as in a binary relationship. So either in that binary relationship, you're going to see 2 galaxies merging, right? That would be similar to a binary relationship. Or you're going to get 3, and who knows how in the world 3 come about. Maybe 3 come about in the manner that, say for instance, during a binary collision of 2 galaxies, you know, we're looking at them actually colliding catastrophically with each other. And then our theories of how the moon collided with the Earth and splattered the Earth, and you have all this molten splattered junk flying around in this fiery ring of crap going around the Earth. Well, that might actually be what you get with the 3 black holes, right? So you have 2 black holes that collide and splatter, and then to create a balance, because 2 really isn't going to be a good balance, but 3 would create a balance. And now you have the primary black hole, the PBH, and then you have 2 siblings. BH is number 1 and 2. And they're going to be near equal in size. And because there's so much expanse between these siblings that are equally spaced apart to balance the galaxy, they're going to be near equal in size. They're not going to be perfectly equal, but they're going to be near equal. They will have coalesced into 2 separate bodies and balanced themselves apart from each other in in exactly, well, in almost exactly, if not exactly the same way that we see our vortical rods develop and how they pass through the core of a planet or a DRCB, right? So you basically have that same development. Now, let's say, for instance, you have a collision of two black holes that is even more catastrophic. Now, you're not going to have four black holes. You're going to have a primary black hole, and that primary black hole is either going to be supported by two black holes, two siblings, or it's going to be supported by four siblings, meaning that it's going to become a hub. So that means that the center of a galaxy with four siblings is going to actually have a total number of 5 black holes. 1 PBH and 4 siblings. BH is numbers 1 through 4. Check? Alright. Check or hold. Yeah, alright. So, ain't that right, Boozy? Okay, so, that's why you cannot have more than 3 black holes in a barred spiral galaxy. Now, the problem with the barred spiral galaxy, actually, it's a problem with any galaxy that has more than 1 black hole. And the problem with that is the primary black hole has a rotation, and because it does not necessarily emit a strong amount of solar wind pressure, because the black hole is going to have plasma on its surface, period, because it eats the stars. It gobbles them up, and depending on that black hole's rate of stellar feed, it will always be less luminous than the surrounding stellar gas cloud or stellar cloud of all the stars put together, at least in terms of what we are physically able to see, because our eyes might not be in tune very well, allowing us to see things in nature as they really are, so we get this really vague picture in our minds because our eyes don't know what it is that they're supposed to be looking at, so all we see is light. Blind light, if that makes any sense, right? Okay, so, whoops, I better stay in my lane. Stay in my lane over there. Okay. Well, anyway, that's pretty much what you get right there. So here's the problem with living in a galaxy that has more than 1 black hole and more than 2 black holes, because technically if you're living in a galaxy that's binary by relationship, you're pretty much screwed, because there's going to be a lot of fighting going on between those 2 galaxies until something happens and they become merged, right? And there you have it. So the primary black hole is rotating, and because its mass is comprised mostly of terrestrial matter, its driving force is more like a gear versus solar wind pressure and a basketball rolling across a basketball court. So that means that the siblings, in fact, are going to be rotating in the opposite direction as the PBH. And what does this do? This means that basically you have a problem with each of these vortices rotating in opposite directions. Well, merging right might have been a bad idea. Okay, I got a spot. They're rotating in opposite directions than the PBH, and so there's going to be a space of the PBH's SMGWs being greater, because the PBH is larger than the siblings, being greater and having some degree of influence on the perimeter or the area between the siblings. And that means that as our solar system is driven around the galaxy, sooner or later we're going to wind up running into SMGWs that are going the opposite direction. So there you have it. We have the problem that maybe we might actually, our solar system might actually get flung out away from the galaxy altogether if it gets too far up into the Virga. And then we strike, you know, who knows what happens then, but if we stay together, then we just basically get obliterated as we run into the border of a jet stream. Or we end up going around our galaxy in the Sagittarius arm, and then as the Sagittarius arm approaches the PBH SMGWs, it's like hitting a brick wall. So we're flying through our galaxy, and then smack, we run dead into a brick wall, and bloop, there's the end of our solar system. So what else does that mean? It means that, well, if we began at some point in our galaxy, chances are pretty good we did not begin at any given point in our galaxy and didn't just fly around an entire circumference of our galactic plane, because there's too much turbulence between the black holes. And eventually we're going to end up getting chopped up into a million, whatever you call it, right? So most likely our solar system, its existence began as a subject to BH number 1, more than likely shortly after or shortly at the beginning of BH number 1's SMGWs, as they separated from the PBH's SMGWs. And there you have it. And then we basically we ride around not even a hemisphere's worth of SMGW. We have a very limited period of existence, and that period of existence is going to be approximately, I'm thinking immediately in my mind without measuring anything, because I could measure it for you, but I'm driving my car right now, so it's really hard to use a ruler in the dark. So basically what I'm going to tell you is, it would probably be approximately a 120 degree range of existence as we go around our galaxy. Or, you know, orbit the PBH or BH number 1. And so it's most definitely a limited existence. Basically what it boils down to, ladies and gentlemen, is no matter how you look at our position in the universe, we are limited. That's why we're so fragile. That's why we need to stop knocking each other off the planet, because it's ridiculous. There is so much out there that could just wipe us out in the blink of whatever you want to blink. You could call it your eye, but it could happen even faster than a blink of an eye. It's just blip, there we are, blip, there we go. Now you see us, now you don't. So if we don't start coming together and working together to try to, I'm trying to say, come on world, let's get our act together here, right? It's time for us to stop behaving like siblings and start behaving like a union, a unity. One world, one people. we don't have a lot of time to play around, okay? And my videos aren't for children, so we don't have a whole lot of time to dick around. It's time for us to pull our heads out of our asses and start working toward a goal that benefits humanity as a whole. We have the technology. We can rebuild this man. I think that's what they said. You know, $6 million man. All right, there I go. Giving away my age. Okay, so this is all fun stuff, right? Yeah. Let's see. So yeah. Also, I mean, look at this now, right? Now, as we become more and more globally affiliated, coronavirus and the swine flu and all that other stuff, all those pandemics and epidemics and demiemics and all the other remics, continue to engulf the populations on Earth. We don't have to worry about impactors smacking the crap out of us from outer space, or the solar system flying off into oblivion when it runs into a freaking brick wall, a brick astronomical wall. We need to worry about things of how we're going to help people. Maybe I'll wait and let that guy over. Trucker Bob's, I know it's a exit only lane, and I know he's not going to Fort Lewis, so he's going to be wanting to get on the freeway in my lane right here eventually. He's kind of like, yeah, that car decided to block him. Okay, well anyway, right? There you go. So there I was. Yep. So many things that could wipe us out. And I can tell you right now, in much the same way that the Europeans, when they came to the quote-unquote New World, how they, basically introduced illnesses. I'm not sure if I would want to call them viruses or whatnot, but introduced illnesses to, wow, it's getting crowded around here. Woo, that guy's brights are light. I mean, his lights are bright. Well, anyway, when we start to look at other, populating other worlds that may be Earth-like, and I'm going to tell you right now, there's other Earths out there. Imagine how hard it would be if you lived light years upon light years away from our galaxy, or even within our galaxy, to be able to look upon our solar system and say, hey, there's Earth. Because Earth is so close to the sun and so horribly small. How on Earth, how in the galaxy could you possibly see Earth, right? So, come on, think about it. There's going to be a lot of Earths out there. But the problem with it is, they're not going to be exactly like our Earth. And it would probably take a while for our species of humanity to be able to adapt, improvise, and overcome the atmospheric differences. We have to do that even on our own planet, for Pete's sake, right? We have to overcome the elevation. Those folks that live up there around the Himalayas, they have the capacity to breathe very, very thin oxygen. And us oxygen fat people that live down here right on the water of the earth, sea level and whatever, we have a lot more oxygen to breathe. And when we go up there on the Himalayas, we practically die and suffocate because there's nothing up there for us to breathe, and we got to have a lot of oxygen for our lungs to work right. So that's just an example, a very small example of basically what you're going to run into when you start setting, get over there, Trucker Bob, when you start setting foot on other worlds that look like Earth. All right. Now, here's a funny thought for you, right? So, I mean, yeah, it's the Bible, it's in the Bible, it's in Revelation. And it talks about how the world doesn't have any mountains left. Well, how in the world can the world not have any mountains left? Well, I'm going to tell you right now. When Mom is mixing that bowl of yummies, like she's making cookies, right? And all them swirls of cinnamon and sugar and whatever the heck else she threw into there start swirling around, you get clumps. And she's using the beater, whatchamacallit, to beat out the clumps. Well, the Earth operates a lot like Mom's beater. I've only said that quite a few times. Well, let's think about it, folks. What happens when Mom is almost completely finished beating the crap out of whatever it is she's going to throw in the oven? It gets really smooth, right? Well, there's your planet without mountains, folks. We end up heating the planet up to the point where it becomes very, very active, and as it becomes more and more active in terms of vertical operation, the egg beater gets turned on, and next thing you know, all the mountains get thinned out until the planet's surface is more and more smooth. Yep. There you go. That's just a theory, by the way. Everything that I propose in my videos and in my thoughts and in my writing are theoretical. So all the naysayers out there, well, you can kiss my butt. If we don't think outside the box, we're never going to get anywhere. And if we create so many criteria that they end up becoming so restrictive that you can't even fart without thinking about something that's going to be, oh no, that's not possible. Gas cannot possibly emit from your asshole if your fart doesn't have the right kind of pressure behind it. It has to be at least 4 microns of a poop before it can come out. And if it doesn't meet 4 microns of a poop when it comes out, then it's not a fart. Little sarcasm there, folks. Wow, I'm only halfway to work. Now what am I going to talk about? I already talked about how short our existence is going to be flying around the galaxy, let alone everywhere else we plan to fly. And then you have the Russian roulette of the Indus GRB trying to shoot us out of the sky. I mean, could you imagine what would happen if that GRB hit our solar system directly? If it has that kind of an effect passing by our solar system, imagine what it could do to our sun if it hit the sun. So it's not even close to the sun, but close enough that its gravitational influence peels the plasma away from the sun up to 0.02 astronomical units. So if it hits the sun directly, we have no sun left, folks. We're going to have a sun that gets ripped apart. Pretty much worse than what you would expect to see when a neutron is stealing the plasma off of its binary buddy, the big yellow star that isn't so big and yellow anymore. And then there you are. One day, our time is up. It would hit us so fast we'd have no idea what hit us. We would just be bloop, gone forever, like we never existed. Kind of like those volcanic thermal vents that appear down in the ocean's floor, right around the volcanic cracks, right? One day, you get a whole bunch of crap bubbling up out of the earth, makes this towering poop mound of matter, and next thing you know, it's teeming with life. And then one day, that vent seals up and no longer provides thermal heat, and suddenly all that teeming life that was once in existence on that I don't know, it's not exactly a stalagmite, I think that's what it's called. It's a poop mite, and then suddenly all the life is gone. Well, that's us. Right now, we're only slowly killing ourselves because we're too bullheaded to really start thinking seriously about developing alternative sources of fuel and or ways to make our machines operate. Pretty much, if you want anything to operate, it must be able to consume an energy source, regardless. And anything that is a form of energy or a form of consumable anything to create combustion of any sort or the operation of a kind, it has to poop. Something has to be discharged after the use. That's just the way physics is going to operate. There's always going to be poop. Everything poops, right? If you eat, you're going to poop. So here we have energy. Even if it's coming from the sun and it's solar, there's going to be some form of byproduct. Not really sure what it would be for using solar energy. If not the byproduct of wearing mechanisms. What I mean by wearing is mechanisms that are wearing out. You make them, you wear them out. You create a byproduct in the process of making the material that is designed to thrive on renewable energy. But to develop those products, you have to pollute to some extent to get those products developed. Period. We have all kinds of toxic materials that we use to create and develop the electronic instruments that we use to have computers. So no matter what you do, something is going to be pollutive. If it's not pollutive, then we're just going to go right back to the dark ages where the most pollutive thing we do is poop, because we're just, basically everything has its own natural process of breaking down and seeding the earth with nutrients and things of that nature. So either way you look at it, there's going to be some degree of pollutant going out. You can't have it any other way. Stars are polluting our universe. Literally. We're worried about the pollution on Earth. And what about the pollution coming out of the star? It creates that fusion. It eats up all them gobbles that it does inside of its corona, and does that fusion, and in the process of making that fusion, spews out all kinds of poop, right? And all that poop fills the universe. It's going somewhere. It's not just non-existent. It's going out there. We know that. Otherwise, we wouldn't have these ion storms, and we wouldn't have these coronal mass ejections of poop filling up the area. So there you go. Everything poops. And the more stars you have, the more dark matter you're going to see. The more stellar nurseries you're likely to see. As the stellar nursery nebulae separate, being the lighter material, separate from the heavier material of dark matter. And dark matter being the purest of all the material, being so pure that we can't see it, except that we see its absence, or we see the absence of the visible universe that we are accustomed to looking at in its presence, in its body. And we measure the light as it appears to be going around dark matter. And I do say appears to be going around dark matter because it really isn't. I don't believe that light is going around dark matter. It could be I believe the term is diffracted from, oh, snazzles. Oh, come on, people. It's a fast lane. What are you slowing down for? Well, I'm going to go follow Trucker Bob because he's actually driving faster. I don't know why those guys are poking along. Okay. Sheesh. I might have to modify this video and shorten it because I don't know what else to babble about. Finally made it to Canunion. Yeah, I might have to kill the video from here, folks, because I ran out of poop to talk about. Pretty much burned it all up. No sense beating a dead horse. I don't know. You know, I can sit there and talk to the world about everybody not killing each other anymore until I'm blue in the face. I don't know if it's ever going to have any effect. I mean, it's pretty darn hard when you're born with testosterone as a guy, and it's like your whole purpose in your life is to be the stealth, be competitive, be manly. And what's more manly than having the power to be of prowess, right? And then when you get old, your testosterone pooped out your butt, you don't have it anymore, and you're just like, why was I like that to begin with? That's silly. There's no reason to be like that. We should love each other. Everybody should be in love with each other. Take care of ourselves. And your whole perspective on life changes. Yeah, and the biggest reason I wanted to get this stuff out is because, well, you never know. Might be my day to get, you know, for my life to end because I get into some hellacious accident where I die. Or worse yet, Get in your lane, dude. What the hell are you doing? That guy was like not paying attention to where he was going. That was scary. He was in my lane, for Pete's sake. Yeah, might be my day. Some kook out here like that guy in that pickup truck get road rage and shoot me. So, there you go, right? Get all these theories out, and then hopefully that somebody might pay attention to it and actually start thinking about the things that I've been proposing theoretically, and take it one step further. Take it from theory to fact. Work the models. Find out the models actually function. Learn how to actually put the past navigational efforts into practice in order to really find out just exactly where an impactor originated. Not just how it approached the Earth at the time that it struck. Because that trajectory that Earth is telling us in today's coordinate is not going to be the same coordinate Earth was at the time the object struck the Earth. And that may have a major impact 4.4 billion years before present ago, or less, but long enough to have been a time when the solar system was in a completely different location within the galaxy, for that impactor to have actually originated from a different place. And we have to get away from the centrifuge thought that impactors only come from our solar system. They could be extragalactic. And we're more apt to be struck by an extragalactic impactor on the northern hemisphere that's actually facing out away from the top of the galaxy than we are in the southern hemisphere. So the southern hemisphere impactors are more likely going to be striking our planet if they're flying basically in the same direction that our solar system is moving along the galactic plane. Then they probably came from the galactic plane. And they're traveling faster than our solar system is. Which means they would have had to have been ejected from a force of at least some form of explosion that created a fragment that now has a speed or a velocity that's greater than the natural rotational velocity of our galaxy's SMGW. Oh yeah, I was going to talk about in more details, so I mentioned that the galaxy has a base and it has a top, and we live on the top. And the base is somewhat shaped like a saucer and less bulbous than the top. And so as the SMGWs are rotating, when you look at, say for instance, you look upon our galaxy from the top, as the NASA scientists speculate in their drawing, in their conceptual drawing of our galaxy, and it's rotating in a clockwise direction, right? Those SMGWs are rolling, so first of all, they're energy waves that are coming out, emitting out away from our parent black hole, and they are radial. So they only occur every so often, like arms extending out from the center of a carousel. And then they, because they have a force that's also underneath the galaxy, they are rolling. So that if you were to look at the galactic profile, well, that guy had some really strange headlights. They were like changing color and stuff. They were like iridescent or something. It was really weird. It's like, how are they even lighting the road? So, it's like looking at a Christmas tree going down our street. Oh, anyway, okay, so these waves are rolling, and the reason they're rolling in the direction they are is because the force is greater beneath the galaxy and weaker at the top where we live in the galactic Virga and the Sagittarius arm. So if we were to look at the profile of our galaxy, where the top of our galaxy is on the top of toward the top of our sheet, as we would look at it in terms of the canvas of our sheet being 8.5 by 11 inches in the landscape view, right? Then the waves are rotating in a counterclockwise manner, as if rolling along the bottom of the galaxy. And that puts the crest of those galactic SMGWs at the same side of the galaxy, which we're referring to as the top. And it's kind of like the riptide as it goes up along the shore or reaches the shore of the land. It's rolling. Trust me, I know this because I've ended up in them and I rolled. I rolled in the riptide coming in and I rolled in the riptide going out. Yeah, bad stuff. Scares the crap out of you. You're like holding your breath. I don't know how many dreams I've had of being in a riptide and being able to breathe underwater. It was a pretty cool dream though, but I was panicking in my dream too. And then suddenly you just pop up, and at least the tide was not so strong that it just sucked me under. But yeah, those are the kind of the scary things when you're growing up around the ocean a lot. You just don't really give the ocean the respect it requires or deserves. Okay, so it's rolling along anyway. And as it approaches objects, just in exactly the same manner that a GRB approaches an object and has the leading effect of that approaching wave, it's just like the riptide again. It starts sucking matter down into the base of its roll. And it's like pulling the water right off the beach as the wave is, whoops, I'm doing a little bit too fast here. As the wave is approaching, it's pulling that water right off the beach. So as the SMGW or the GRB approach their targets, they start sucking the matter down underneath of that wave before it spits it out at the top or whatever the case. Well, in the sense of the SMGWs, our solar system gets sucked down into these waves, and that develops its kind of like its, financial recession type thing, where it's going down into the dip. It's going down into the saddle of the difference between the two waves, between two radial waves, where the peaks are at their, are actually the crests, right? And the crests at the distance our solar system is from BH number 1 is 11 years. So we're down in that little gully, and then as the crest of the wave reaches our solar system rises. So this is where we're getting our rise and fall kind of motion as we're moving through the galaxy, and the wave just passes under us, just like that albatross going between swells. The albatross is moving a little bit as the swells carry that albatross, but the wave in itself is not like an albatross. An albatross is surfing the swell. The swell eventually leaves the albatross, but at the same relationship, it's also carrying that albatross in a very slow direction of which that particular swell is moving, right? And as the swells continue, they continue to carry that albatross in that direction. But it's a very slow process, and the albatross just kind of like just sits there and goes up and down, up and down. Well, that's our solar system. All right, lots of folks coming around here today. Now that guy's going to go left, and he's going to take his turn out of turn, which is fine. It's a big intersection. I'm almost to work now, so I guess I did pretty much fill that up. And I described how the waves, the SMGW waves, are just like any wave you'd ever see on the ocean floor. And the only difference between a SMGW is that the wave front is actually what is striking the solar system. But it strikes the solar system in the dragging rope manner. So the innermost perimeter of our solar systems, the innermost perimeter of our solar system, the perimeter of our solar system that is actually closest to the center of our galaxy, is the side of the solar system that is struck by the SMGW first. And then the SMGW, as it strikes the solar system, is forced down and out away from the solar system before it goes back up. And so it's kind of like this little dippity bump, right? And it's at the dippity bump of this activity where the solar system is actually at its rise on the crest. And that's the force that rotates the solar system. It's that strike, pass under, extend from the solar system coordinate that forces the sun to rotate in the direction that it rotates. And that's why our solar system has a relationship with the galaxy that is that has a axial tilt and an axial cant to actually give it a three-dimensional obliquity to its relationship to the galactic plane. These are the things you have to take into consideration if you want to figure out where the point of origin of a past impactor truly was. Now, once you figure out how, like say for instance, I figured out I had to put together what I call the axial terra clock. And my axial terra clock is basically tracking the Earth's, what's that called? It's called something. Not the equinox. The Earth's, tracking the Earth's ecliptic in relation to the sun, because I had to do that first before I could figure out what the solar system's obliquity was in relation to the galactic plane. And that's just one of those steps you got to reverse engineer the galaxy, and maybe even the universe, if a particular impactor struck us and originated from outside of our galaxy, being extragalactic, right? All right, well, I'm at work now, and it's 5:46. It's time for me to walk in. It was nice talking to you guys. Please remember to go ahead and like my videos. I know I could be boring over the course of time, but the information is what's important. And if you really care about the future of humanity, maybe someone will listen to it, right? So don't forget to like it and subscribe. Thank you very much. Have a nice day. Bye.